Hey guys, so today we're going to focus our discussion on just the first law that Isaac Newton wrote back in the 1600s. So, as we go through the rest of the week, we'll talk about each law individually. We have already discussed his second law in depth, but we will touch base on his second law as well. And so, let's just focus now on his first law. So, his first law is called the law of inertia. And we talked about inertia a couple weeks ago. Inertia is a word that we use to talk about the tendency of an object to resist changes in motion. Okay. So now this isn't scientific, but we all resist doing things we don't want to do. Like we don't want to get out of bed, or we don't want to do our work, or we don't want to cook dinner. Um, and that in some ways could be described as emotional inertia. But in science, inertia is measurable and it is related to an object's mass, basically saying that the heavier an object is, or the more mass an object has, the more resistance it has to changing what it's doing. In other words, heavier objects are harder to get started, and heavier objects are also harder to stop. Okay, lighter objects are easier to get started, and lighter objects are easier to stop. And that's basically what inertia is. So his first law sometimes is shortened to say it is the law of inertia. But basically, in long form, what it says is that if an object is in motion, it will continue moving in the same direction until a force changes its motion. And on the other hand, an object that is not moving will continue to not move until a force changes its motion. Okay? So, in order to change something's motion or to accelerate it, we have to apply a force. Okay? So, if an object is resting, it will stay resting. So, if nobody goes and puts a force on a table, the table will remain at rest. So, inertia is the object's resistance to a change in motion. And again, like I said before, some objects have more of a tendency to resist change than others because it takes more force to change an object's motion if it has more mass. All right. So again, the heavier an object is, the harder it is to move, or the more force is required to move it. All right. And it takes less force to change the motion of an object with a lower mass. Of course, we should know by now that mass is the amount of matter in an object, and a measure of the object's tendency to keep doing what it's doing is called inertia. So it's kind of just inertia and mass are really the same thing, but when we're referring to an object's unwillingness or desire to stay what it's doing, then we refer to it as its inertia. So this is a good example of inertia. So if we think about this scenario, we've got this guy on a skateboard and he's rolling down the street and he hits this block with the skateboard. The question is, what is going to happen to the person when the skateboard hits the block? So hopefully we would know by now, by watching enough videos on TikTok or YouTube or movies, that if that happens, the skateboard will come to a stop, but the person will continue to move forward because there is nothing that is holding them back. There is nothing that is going to prevent them from going forward. Okay? So, of course, he'll fly forward. So, here's another example. So, if we look at this animation, the person in the car continued to move forward. And this is a perfect example of why there is a law that says that seatbelts are required. So when a car comes to an abrupt or quick stop, your body wants to continue moving forward. And so you need something there to apply a force to stop that inertia. And so that's why seatbelts are important. Now, of course, we also have airbags as well as kind of a backup safety protocol for that. But if you've ever ridden in a car, which I know you have, and your parents come to an abrupt stop, you lurch forward. If they take off from a red light, when the light turns green quickly, you get pushed back. And if they turn left or right quickly, you lean to the left or the right in the car. That is because your body wants to continue doing what it was already doing. And unless there's something there to stop you from doing it, then you're going to continue to move. Okay. And so that's why it's important. Okay. So that is Newton's law in a nutshell. So we will talk about what your activity is for today as you go forward and look for examples of his first law. All right, guys, have a great day.